Queensland National Senator Matt Canavan. Matt, I didn't want to talk to you about this issue, but I just got to get your thoughts on it. I mean, James Merlino and Anthony Albanese, clearly, a lockdown that on the evidence is not required. Clearly, if there are any problems, it's with their own contact tracing and containment. Yet they're trying to blame this on Canberra. How low is that?
Well, Chris, it's a classic tactic. I'm the father of 5 kids, and the distraction technique sometimes works. So they're trying the same thing. They're just trying to distract attention from their own failures by bringing in irrelevant matters. The idea somehow that the vaccine rollout could have saved us all from this. I mean, even if we hadn't have had the issues with AstraZeneca and supply issues from Europe, there still could have been an outbreak like this. And there is no excuse for the clear lack of adequacy that exists in the contact tracing regime of the Victorian government, despite multiple failures and opportunities for them to improve that and fix their issues. It's very unfortunate for Australia. It's more unfortunate for the people, long-suffering people of Victoria. But instead of trying to distract attention from their own failures, why don't they fix it? Why don't they fix the system that they run?
They got to fix it. I just feel so much for Victorians locked down again like this. It's just ridiculous. Now, we looked earlier at the week at some ads, anti-racism ads that have been run by the Australian Human Rights Commission. Apparently, they're going to have a crack at another round of these ads. They seem to think that all of Australia has this underlying racism. You got to ask some questions of the Australian Human Rights Commission in Senate estimates today. Did you find out any more about what they think of Australia and Australians?
Well, what I asked, Chris, was whether or not these campaigns that you've done a great job highlighting, whether or not they have been influenced by what's known as critical race theory, which you might know, Chris, has its origins in Marxist-inspired critical theories. It's an outreach of Marxism. And the President of the Australian Human Rights Commission could not guarantee that these campaigns are not influenced by Marxism. Now, can you imagine, Chris, if I'd asked, can you guarantee that none of your work or material is influenced by fascism, or none of your work is influenced by Nazi ideas? I'm sure they'd say no, unequivocally no, we don't do that. And anyone who would do that would be sacked on the spot, surely, from a Commonwealth agency. Why is it okay for Marxists then? Because Marxism has been responsible for hundreds of millions of deaths. We've fought a war through the Cold War against this evil concept. And yet there are Commonwealth agencies apparently funded by your taxes who cannot guarantee that they don't have secret Marxists spreading Marxist propaganda to the Australian people on the Australian taxpayer dime. Yeah,
well said, well enunciated. It's a worry. There's no real reason for that body to exist any longer. Just briefly on energy, I know you're a big advocate for coal energy. That is cheap and available for Australia. But should we be looking at nuclear energy domestically too?
Look, yes, I do, in short, and in longer form, myself and Nationals colleagues in the Senate are seeking to move amendments to remove some of the prohibitions against nuclear. We saw this week in Queensland with the fire at a power station, caused 500,000 people to lose power. We need reliable forms of power. I think we should be investing in coal-fired power as well. But what's happening here, Chris, is clearly we are using our coal-fired power stations in a way they weren't intended. With all this unreliable renewables in the system, we're having to switch on and off the coal-fired power stations multiple times a day. They weren't designed for that. That's why we're probably going to get more incidents like this. And if we don't replace them with modern coal-fired power stations or a nuclear power station that can run all the time, we are going to continue to have to worry. We have to worry about, in the future, Chris, what's going to happen if the Labor-Green Turnbull Alliance get their way and they shuttle our coal-fired power stations? You'll watch the weather forecast every night, not to know what the temperature is outside,
see if there's wind or sun.
You can put your heating on.
Exactly.
Can you put your heating on tonight, or can you put your air conditioning on? You'll have to go for the weather forecast because it will tell you if it's windy or sunny. Then you'll be right. Then you can at least keep yourself warm.
Indeed. Thanks, Matt Canavan. I appreciate it. Yeah, a new take on the weather forecast, I suppose. But then the world's going to all be climatically controlled anyway. We'll have a perfect temperature every day if they get their way.